Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being a music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Linkin, and that's Invisible. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, and I hope you enjoy. Now going into this track, it's fair to say that I have a strong distaste for this new venture into electronic music by this group. It's not that I'm against the group changing this sound, as I keep saying in many of these Linkin Park reviews, because we've seen acts of the same era do the same thing really. They reinvent themselves as very relevant modern acts, commercially viable as well. Bands such as people like Paramore and even Seether to an extent fairly recently, but Linkin Park have consistently disappointed me with their singles from this upcoming album, so should we see whether they can turn the tide with this track? Well, in my opinion, it is much better, but it's still not a good song, and I don't see myself ever listening to it ever again. But it at least had a bit more of a modern and listenable vibe about it. I think it's mostly down to Mike actually taking the reins as the vocalist, the only vocalist this time around. My problem with Chester's voice on the last few tracks, or rather just his clean voice in particular, is that he has this very 90s boy band-esque sort of tone, natural tone to his voice, unlike his sweet, rough screams and rough vocals back from the past. I just think his clean voice is just very typical and very forgettable really. Mike, however, has a really strong performance in this track and surprised me throughout the track's entire runtime. Having said all this, the track is still cliche as heck, and you know exactly what's going to happen from the first moment. And I know it's written about Mike's children, and there are some cute little sequences here and there, very genuine sequences I will say, but the track as a whole is very stereotypical and very generic. When it comes to the production of this track, it at least seems a little more concentrated than their last few endeavours. Before this release, I had a real problem with them trying to combine these EDM elements with organic instrumentation instead of making it flow or allowing it to really create a recognisable texture. Instead, it just sounded like some drained instruments that were overproduced with some preset pads in the background, and that's not really my cup of tea. This time around, we have some more impactful transitions, a cleaner vocal track that is much less tampered with, and some pads and synths that actually possess some identifiable timbres. Sure, it's not perfect, and I still found the texture very bland in this track, but it's not so bland and so dull that it sounds as lazy as their last few tracks. Musicality wise, the track is at least a little more structured and thought out than tracks like Battle Symphony and Good Goodbye fairly recently. In those tracks we just got verse after verse and chorus after chorus, and we never got a bridge or a pre-chorus or any sections that changed anything up whatsoever. I'm not saying that this time around that we actually got buckets of variation or anything like that, but at least we had some melodic development in here and a bridge which actually injected some different dynamics and had, you know, sort of different progressions introduced within it, whereas the other tracks were just, you know, bar after bar repeats. It had a little more weight to it this time around as well, and sincerity too, which I think is important, and I think that's largely down to how prominent the subject matter is within this track, alongside the very strong vocal performance that is recognisable and good fun. On the other hand though, the progressions never changed really throughout this track. Having said that earlier in the review, there wasn't a single instrumental melody that really sort of caught my eye or anything. There was nothing that was that memorable in my opinion. Harmony wise, there was just no variation there at all. In fact, there was no harmonies at all, I believe, and the progressions that stuck out to me in this track were again very generic and very stereotypical, and the percussion was just dead as a doornail all the way through as well, just your regular sort of 4/4 beat. Lyrically, this track does obtain many tropes and many generic one-liners, but as I've already said, there are some cute little personal nods to Mike Shinoda's children's, and I think the performance allowed for these little phrases to seem a little more poignant than I was really expecting. So all in all, it's an improvement. I will say it's an improvement, but in the way that stubbing one toe is probably better than stubbing two toes, one on each feet. So I gave it a G rating of 5 out of 10, which is just completely average. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.